Alright everyone, I want to welcome you all back to some more Umineko. So we finally made it into the mansion of Battler and his family and the rest of his family's homes. And it's very spacious, it's exactly what you expect from people coming from a rich family. And we also learn about the family a little bit, more so for Ava and how she's a little malicious with the way she's discreetly malicious, I guess you can say. It's not necessarily, it's not discreet to us, and it's not discreet to the family, but she makes it so regardless. And then there's also the character of George, who, in my opinion, to this moment, I still believe there's something going on with him. I don't believe him to be the character he claims himself to be, or he presents himself, because there has to be something. He is not altruistic. I just feel he isn't. And you can tell whenever his eyeglasses fog up, I'm like, no, this can't be it. There's a lot to this game that is like making me so intrigued with it because there's so many mysteries still. And we haven't even reached the point with the grandfather yet and his will. And that was the synopsis of this game in the first place. So, we're going to continue on from where we last left off, guys. And that's pretty much where we're on. So, if anything else, I hope you all continue to enjoy. Let's get right back into it. Alright everyone, welcome back. Let's continue forward.
すぐに仕事に戻ります。カノン君も自分の持ち場に戻って。お願い。
姉さんがそう言うなら。
何事もないなら、そうしなさい。
はい。失礼します。
Look at this lady. She is sly. From the shadows in the hallway, an old woman wearing an apron watched over them. It was Kumasawa.
おいたわしや。シャノンさん、カノンさん。
She is a ninja.
あの二人がいじめられる理由は何もないのです。しかし、ゴーダさんに嫌われているのは紛れもない事実。ゴーダさんは、後ろ宮本家へいらっしゃられるまで、どこかの立派なホテルにお勤めだったそうです。そこで身につけられたというお仕事ぶりは、そりゃ大したものだとは思います。ただ、ゴーダさんはここでは最も年季の短い使用人。ご自身のそれまでの積み重ねによるプライドもあられたのでしょう。彼は自分より長い年季を持ちながらも、未熟で人生経験も及ばないシャノンさんとカノン君をことあるごとにいびられるのです。また、気の毒なことに、夏日奥様にも嫌われております。もちろん、年季という意味では奥様の方が長くこの家におられます。ただ、こればかりは奥様にも同情しなくてはなりません。本当に親方様も罪作りな方でございます。
The master is truly a cruel person. Now, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I'm not certain who she's referring to. It's either the grandfather, the ill old man with that is being told to make a will, or it's someone in the immediate family, like Battler's father or George's dad. It's one of those people. I don't necessarily know who she's referring to, though.
ご自身のちょっとした気まぐれが奥様にこれほどまでの劣等感をお与えになるとは、どうして思い至らなかったのでしょう。もちろん、奥様とて内心は、あの二人に辛く当たる言われは何もないことを重々承知してはおります。しかし、それが理屈でわかっているからといって、どうにもならないのが人の心。ああ、ほいたわしや。私には何もできず、こうして物陰から見守ることしかできないのです。
Wait, what? What was all that about? The four of us cousins were shooting the breeze over all kinds of topics. After all, there are both girls and guys here, plus we've got people over a wide spread of ages, adult, high school, and elementary school. All each of us had to do was talk about ourselves, and it would be of great interest to the other three.
なんかやっと馴染んできたぜ。ジェシカもマリアも、6年前からは想像もつかないくらい成長しちまったからよ。正直なところ、少しだけ違和感を持ってたんだが、こうして話をしているうちに、中身はあの頃から何も変わってないことが分かったぜ。
同じ言葉を返してやるよ。バトラだって、6年ぶりだってのに全然変わってねえぜ。図体がいくらでかくなっても、中身は相変わらずお子様だってことだな。
マリアもお子様。
マリアだっていつまでもお子様じゃねえぞ。お子様から、可愛いお姫様に成長してくんだからな。そうしたら、まな板みてえな胸も、すぐジェシカ並みになるぞ。そしたら、揉ませてくれよ。約束だぞ。
That is in itself. I know he's joking, but that is disturbing.
揉ませる。
No!
約束する。
No! No oohing!
ダメだよ、マリアちゃん。そんな約束しちゃダメ。
約束したから揉ませる。マリア、約束は守る。絶対守る。
マリア。お前、本当に、素直ないい子だな。お前と結婚する未来の旦那さんは、きっと幸せ者だぜ。
って、いい話にすり替えつつ約束を保持してんじゃねえぜ。マリア、その約束はなし。
約束取り消し。
やっぱり、バトラ君も揃って4人で集まらないと、いとこが集合した気がしなかったね。この6年は、やっぱり寂しかったよ。
そうだな。こういうふざけた話にはならなかったな。でも、建設的な話はできてたと思ったぜ。将来に対する心構えとか、受験とか就職とかよ。
悪うございましたね。俺が来たらおまぬけなドタバタばっかりでよ。
でもマリアは今年のが楽しい。
そうだね。僕も同感。今年が一番楽しいよ。
Maria's sincere words probably spoke for everyone. When George Aniki stroked Maria's head, she giggled like a happy kitten.
失礼いたします。
Oh, it's Shannon.
お食事のご用意ができました。
A timid knocking sound and an equally timid young woman's voice came through the door. Jessica answered brightly.
シャノン、入れよ。バトラは覚えてるだろ？
Jessica stood up from the bed and opened the door. There stood a servant girl who was definitely about our age.
ご無沙汰いたしております。バトラ様、6年ぶりでございます。シャノンです。
Noting my presence and trembling a little, she bowed deeply.
ジェシカにも驚かされたが、シャノンちゃんにも驚かされたぜ。あんたもすっかり美人になったじゃねえのよ。
もったいないお言葉、強烈に存じます。
しかしよ、この島じゃよっぽど食事の栄養価が高いんじゃねえのか？何を食ってどこを鍛えたら、そんなにでっかいお胸になるんだか。
My guy here is incredibly blunt, man.
ジェシカとどっちがでけえか、ちょいと触って確かめさせてもらうぜ。
Very, very honest. With both hands poised and saliva dribbling from my mouth, I closed in. For the sake of my honor and justice, I'd like to point out that I don't suffer from some strange disease that makes my lymph nodes itch until I scratch my neck open, and which can only be prevented by rubbing breasts. It's just my battler-style way of communicating. When a boy closes in on a girl like this, 9 times out of 10 they get slapped or clobbered, right? This is a Battler-sama original communication technique, aiming for a gag like that to break the ice. Well, that means I really do get to touch them on that 1 in 10 chance though, right? Yeah. I never asked for that much though. By now my hands were less than a centimeter away from Shannon-chan's chest, but the counter-strike had yet to come. She understood what was going on and she was blushing and had her head lowered in embarrassment. But she was just standing there with both hands politely joined in front of her, not even trying to resist or cover her breasts. Oh, I wasn't planning on this. Please hit me right now. At this rate, I'm seriously gonna touch them. Which is why I was glad that Jessica chose that time to drive her elbow into the back of my head.
ジェシカ、ありがとうよ。
なんで私が感謝されんだ？お？
いやいや、すまんぜシャノンちゃん。魅力的な胸に思わず吸着されそうになっちまった。つうか、さすがにあの間合いまで来たら犯罪確定だろ。ダメだぜ、抵抗しなきゃよ。
ですけど、バトラ様は大切なお客様ですし。
あのな、お客様でも犯罪は犯罪。女の子の胸はだいたい10センチくらいからが防識別圏だな。2センチ圏まで侵入してきたら、これはもう領空侵犯だぜ。スクランブル発進で即ビンタを食らわせてやれ。
そんなことできません。私たちは、家具ですし。
Of course she didn't want her breast touched, but if a guest so desired, she intended to sacrifice her own needs in an effort to accommodate them. A girl like this needs some urgent protection.
今時、こんな献身美徳な子がいるとは。
You're really messing with Battler's conscience right now.
軽いめまいすら覚えるぜ。でもダメだ。ダメなんだ。俺がいやらしい顔で迫る。
Well, it was short-lived.
倒す。いや、エッチ。そういうお約束じゃないとオチがつかねえんだよ。頼むよ、お願いだよ。俺を引っ叩いてくれよ。こう、バチンと、バチンと。
お願いは聞けません。
You know, at least he's telling her to smack him if he ever tries to do it, but she's so absorbed with her diligence in what she's been trained to do.
家具ですから。
Oh no, don't refer to yourself as furniture. Why would... did they put that in her head?
でも、命令ならお聞きします。
I guess there's no choice. You better order her to smack you if you do something stupid like that.
それが務めですから。
じゃあ、命令させてもらうことにするよ。次からバトラ君が胸に触ろうとしてきたら、平手打ちで反撃すること。いいね。
はい、仰せつかりました。以後、そのようにさせていただきます。バトラ様、ご承知おきくださいませ。
So Shannon-chan declared while bowing elegantly to me. Her facial expression was radiant. I gave her a thumbs up to signal you got it.
6年前は、お手伝いさんの連れ子が、ついでにお手伝いみたいな印象だったんだけど、すっかり一人前の使用人さんだな。今年で何年になるんだ？
はい、おかげさまで10年ほどお仕えさせていただいております。
You know, it's funny because if she's been doing this for about 10 years, then all this whole her being clumsy and whatnot shouldn't have happened. I think the only reason it did was exactly why she said in the previous video. It was because of, I believe his name is Genji? Goda. Wow, Genji. Or maybe it is Genji. Or his first name. Who knows? But it's Goda. The kanji for her name are read as Shannon. This is another far from typical name for a Japanese person. Being a kid back in those days, I had taken in her name without paying it much attention. But for her to be called something like that is pretty unusual given that she isn't even a member of the Ushiromiya family. Maybe it's like a servant's professional name or something. If so, I can kind of understand why that Kanon-kun's name sounds the way it does too. She's a long-term servant who served here since she was 6. Since her body had changed radically, she didn't match my memories, but we used to know each other 6 years ago. It looked like she was just as shy as she had been in the past, but I got the sense that she had become imbued with the charm befitting a girl her age. Especially her breasts. Her breasts.
さっき会ったカノン君は彼女の弟なんだよ。
弟というわけでは。でも、私のことを姉と慕ってくれます。何か失礼なことはしませんでしたか？
相変わらずいつも通りだぜ。もうちょっと愛想よくすればいいのによ。
カノン君がご迷惑をおかけしたようで、申し訳ございません。
別に迷惑なんか何も。同じ男としてわかるさ。あれ、愛想が悪いのは当たり前だぜ。
You know I keep doing that. I keep thinking they're done talking and I click anyway and I'm like, oh, I gotta stop doing that. Let them speak completely.
マリアもよく言われる。愛想悪いって言われる。カノンと一緒。マリア様は愛想悪くなんかありません。
See, with Maria, it's easy. More often than not, she always ends her sentences with ooh.
一緒がよかった。
食事の準備ができたんだっけ？
はい。失礼いたしました。お食事のご用意が整いましたので、皆様をお屋敷へご案内いたします。
Shannon bowed again formally and returned to her duty mode. We realized that if we made her stick around for any more light conversation, it would actually make it harder for her to do her job, so we got up off our butts to avoid interfering with her work any further.
じゃあ、お屋敷に行こうか。みんなもお腹が空いてたところでしょ？
だな。ゴーダさんがいる時の飯は楽しみなんだよ。あの人、どこぞの有名ホテルでシェフをやってたらしくて、かなり料理の腕があるんだぜ。
ほうほう、それ楽しみ。行こうぜマリア。ガツガツ犬みたいに食い散らかすぞ。
犬みたいに食い散らかす。
ダメダメ。バトラ君の言うことはいちいち真に受けちゃダメだよ。全部冗談なんだから。さあ、行こう行こう。
Under Shannon Chan's guidance, we headed towards the mansion. Met once again by the magnificent rose garden, we continued onward as it came into view, the imposing mansion of the Ushiromiya main family. It had apparently been built shortly after the war, so you could feel the dignity of almost a half-century hang about it. On the surface, the building was gorgeous, but being as old as it was seemingly lacking in modern amenities like air conditioning. According to Jessica, midwinter was especially tough with all the drafts. Well, it's not like they couldn't just take the kotatsu out. This guy making a dramatic entrance. As we entered the entrance hall, an aged servant greeted us. Now him, I remembered. As the most senior member of the staff, Genji-san served as the head of the servants. Oh, okay, that's Genji. Alright, I gotta remember that. Head. Senior.
バトラ様、お久しゅうございます。
As our eyes met, he saluted us with a composed voice. He didn't give quite a refined bow as Go does. But it was a bow that had feeling, even if it wasn't polished to the same degree.
ゲンジさん、本当にお久しぶりっす。お元気そうですね。
おかげさまで、健やかに過ごさせていただいております。バトラ様こそ、ご立派になられました。親方様の若き日に、少し似てこられましたな。
俺が、じい様に？ってことは、さぞやじい様は若い頃モテたろうな。
ここからはシャノンに代わって、私がご案内申し上げます。どうぞこちらへ。
Shannon-chan bowed deeply and saw us off. Leaving the entrance hall, we headed to the dining hall under Genji-san's guidance. Genji-san, just like Kumasawa-san, stood in stark contrast to us young people who had grown beyond recognition over the last 6 years. His figure was exactly the same as in my memories of 6 years ago. It seemed like time had stopped since the last we met. Genji-san was a silent and diligent person. He was like grandfather's close aide or caregiver. In fact, you could even go so far as to say he was grandfather's right-hand man. Actually, it seemed that he was by grandfather's side more than my late grandmother was. According to Jessica, grandfather trusts him more than any of his blood relatives. But I wonder how long he served. I've never asked for details, but I think I heard he's been here since the beginning, when this mansion was constructed. That is to say, he's dedicated half of his life to serving here. No wonder grandfather trusts him. As we cut through the open ceilinged hall behind Genji-san, I found something I had no memory of from 6 years ago. It was an awfully big portrait hung right in front of the stairs that rose to the second floor. Without thinking, I stopped walking under its spell. Since I suddenly stopped, Maria, who was following behind me, ran into my back.
ああ、悪い。なあ、ジェシカ。あんな絵、前はあったっけ？
I pointed at the large and conspicuous portrait hanging in the hall. Everyone else stopped too.
ああ、そっか。バトラが来てた頃には、あれはかけられてなかったっけ？いつからだったかな。
確か、僕の記憶が正しければ、一昨年あたりだったと思うよ。
さようでございます。一昨年の4月に、親方様がかねてより画家に命じて描かせていたものを、あそこに展示なされたのでございます。
Wait, is that the portrait? Is that the girl Beatrice that the grandfather was always calling out to?
あのじいさまがね、わざわざ描かせてか。
The portrait depicted a woman in an elegant dress who gave off a sense of refinement and who seemed to suit the Western style of this mansion. I couldn't have guessed her age, but the sharpness and obvious strength of will in her eyes gave me the impression of youth. It was a different feeling than the composed mood of a middle-aged woman that are often in famous pictures. If this woman had normal black hair, I might have thought it was a portrait of my long-deceased grandmother in her prime. However, the woman in the portrait had beautiful golden hair and didn't look Japanese at all.
で、誰だい？このご婦人はよ。
As though trying to show off her knowledge, Maria answered that simple question with authority.
マリア知ってる。ベアトリーチェ。
Nope, I was right.
なんだって？
ベアトリーチェ。
And there it is again. His glasses are fogged. See, there's a pattern here. I'm noticing it.
魔女だよ。バトラ君は昔聞かされたことない？
魔女？って、この島の？
I think I already said this, but Rokenshima is a small island that's only about 10 kilometers around. However, considering that only Ushiromiya family lives here, that's quite large. So only a harbor and a site around the mansion were set up to be lived in. Beyond that, the island remained as untouched as it was when it was still uninhabited. To understand just how dangerous a vast and empty forest with no lamplight, phones, or people passing through it at all actually is, you need to shift your urban assumptions a little. You see, if by any chance you fell down a hole in the depths of the forest and sprained your ankle, cry or scream, no one would come save you. Ooh. If it then got dark, the forest where there are no streetlights would become enshrouded in complete darkness. Also, since there obviously aren't any guideposts here, it's easy to get lost and lose your sense of direction in the dark forest. Nowadays, most people see a forest as a peaceful place. But to the people of the bygone eras before the light of civilization drove out the night, forests were like oceans on land, geographically separating one culture from another. Just as fishermen who go out into the ocean occasionally have their lives put in danger despite their technical knowledge. Technical knowledge was also demanded of hunters who went out into the forest, and their lives were occasionally put in danger just the same. If a child were to go play in that dangerous forest, something terrible might happen. Some parent must have had that thought. Maybe my grandmother, or possibly the man himself, my grandfather, might have said it. Or maybe it was a story handed down on this island from long, long ago. There's a terrible witch in the forest, so you must not go in. Thus, Rokenjima's ghost story was born. That is the legend of the Witch of Rokenjima. So, when we say witch on this island, we are referring to the master of the vast and savage forest. Which reminds me, when I was little and stayed at the mansion, during the eerie nights where the wind and the rain struck the windows, stories like the Witch of the Forest is roaming around in search of a sacrifice would scare the heck out of me. Beatrice, huh? As I searched my memory prompted by Aniki, I did vaguely remember being told that was her name when I was very small.
なるほどな。しかし、あの魔女伝説の魔女に、ベアトリーチェなんておしゃれな名前がついてたとは、とんと忘れてたぜ。じいさまめ。孫たちが信じないもんだから、わざわざ絵に描きやがったか？
じいさまの妄想の中の魔女だよ。この絵を掲げた頃から、現実と幻想の区別がつかなくなり始めた。私たちにとっては想像の中の魔女に過ぎないけど、じいさまにとっては、彼女はこの島にいる存在。いる。だから、それを理解することができない私たちにもわかるよう、あの絵を描かせたって言うんだけど。気持ち悪いったらありゃしないぜ。
お嬢様、親方様にとっては大切な肖像画です。親方様の前で、そのようにおっしゃられることがございませんよ。
わかってるぜ。頼まれても言わねえよ。
Jessica turned away after glaring a second at the portrait.
行こうよ。食堂にみんなを待たせてるよ。
お腹すいた。
Only a small portion of this island is controlled by the Ushiromiya family. If all of the wild remainder was the witch Beatrice's domain, then one could say that she was the being who actually ruled over Rokenjima. That unsettling ominous feeling I had felt on the boat trip when I learned that the shrine had been struck by lightning revived within me a bit. At that time, Kumasawa-san had tried to tell an ominous story about Rokenjima and had been stopped by Jessica. I didn't know what she had tried to tell us about this island, but there was one thing I did know. Rokenjima's ruler was not the Oshiromiya family. It was the witch Beatrice. Yes, because this was the witch's island.
バトラー！遅い！
When I looked around, everyone was already heading towards the dining hall. I hurriedly chased after them. We walked up to the huge double doors that led to the dining hall. Genji-san knocked.
お子様方をお連れいたしました。失礼いたします。
The door was open and we were invited inside. The dining hall, which seemed filthy rich, featured a super long table which was obviously designed with no other purpose than to make guests conscious of their rank. And our parents were already seated at it in accordance with that ordering.
遅えぞガキども。早く席につけよ。
The old bastard pressed us to sit. Only the places where we would sit were empty at the long table, which only made us feel our tardiness all the more. The seat at the very head of the table, which you might call the seat of honor, was for the most highly ranked and reserved for grandfather. It was still empty. He was probably planning to come in last to make himself look important. The sitting order as you faced the seat of honor went from left to right in rows of 2, with the rankings being lower the further you were from it. So, on the left side of the row closest to the seat of honor was the second ranked seat belonging to the eldest of adult siblings, Uncle Kraus. It looked like he hadn't arrived yet either, so that seat was empty. And then opposite him on the right hand side of the first row sat the eldest daughter of the family, Auntie Ava, ranked at number 3. The left hand side of the second row was for number 4. There sat the old bastard Rudolph as the third of the siblings. Opposite him sat number 5, the younger sibling, Auntie Rosa. Going like this, you might think that the next ones to come would be their husbands and wives, but guess again, because the left-hand seat in the following third row, meaning rank number 6, was actually Jessica's seat. Opposite her was George Aniki. Then, the seat next to Jessica was me. And opposite me was Maria. And next to me on the left-hand side of the 5th row, all the way down at the number 10, finally came Aunt Natsuhi. Opposite her was Uncle Hideyoshi. Opposite her, oh, and next to Aunt Natsuhi in the 6th and final row on the left-hand side was Kirie-san. The seat opposite to Kirie had been laid out like the others, but was empty. According to this ranking system, that spot was the seat where Auntie Rose's husband should be sitting. He hasn't come as far as I know, yet the table had been laid for his seat. These kinds of ranking orders usually permit the spouse a corresponding status, but the Ushiromiya family had an original kind of ranking. Maybe it's a leftover of male chauvinism, under the notion that a mother's womb is only a temporary house for the child and she contributes no genes to children of direct descent would have the highest ranking, followed by the grandkids, meaning that the spouses with no blood ties would be considered the last in line. It's terrible, but according to that ranking order, grandmother, if she was still alive, would be in a position even lower than mine. In youth, obey your father. After marriage, your husband. After aging, your children. A leftover of the times when they used to say, women, no home in 3 worlds. Long ago, I was still incapable of figuring all this out. I thought it was so great that we could all chat with the adult siblings sitting in their group and us cousins in ours. Alright guys, I'm going to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. So we finally got down to learning about the character Beatrice based on that portrait alone. Because I've seen that picture of her in like the covers of this game. And I always wondered who this character would be and when she would be introduced. Turns out she is most likely dead? Deceased? Because now they're talking about, because the grandfather knew her, and I assumed he knew her when she was young. Unless she makes a special appearance later in this, this story, which she probably will, because again, her picture is in here. So we'll find out. If anything else, guys, thank you all for watching. Thank you for the love and support, and we'll continue on in the next one.